everyone. Welcome back to the Cloudcast. My name's Tyler Bower. I'm here with my co-host, Seth Ellertson. Say something funny, Seth.
Welcome. Hello, everybody.
It's never funny. Like I say this.
You put me on the spot. I have nothing funny to say.
It's all good. Well, we have as well with us Mr. Adam Goldschmiedt. Say hello, Adam.
Hello, Adam.
Hello, Adam. Also, due to technical difficulties, we have our marketing director, Jessica Balish. Say hello, Jessica.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Glad to be here.
It's a full house today. It's a full house.
Everything happens for a reason. We're going to find out why she's here in a little bit, I think.
That's right.
It's all meant to be.
That's right. Well, which is customary for the Cloudcast. Adam, tell us your origin story, how you came to be this strapping gentleman standing in front of us.
A lot of time in the gym, a lot of carbs, a lot of pizza, a lot of beer. Let's tell the quick story is what do? I teach, I coach, and I facilitate leadership teams of entrepreneurial organizations, help them gain clarity on what they want to accomplish, what their vision is, what are the steps they need to do to accomplish that short and long term. But how I got there is I was actually in tech for about 20 years. I ran agencies, two of them in particular, one called Blue Switch, the other one called Pixify, which you may have heard of. And, over the course of running those teams and growing those organizations and dealing with, a lot of challenges within those organizations, I stumbled upon this set of tools.
Wait, you ran Pixify?
Yeah. You ever heard of it?
I got like a sweat towel at a conference one time from them.
Yeah. That was me. That was all me. That's my invention right there. Yeah, I invented the sweat towel. I have one of those hats too. Interesting, like several colors and sizes. No, Pixify and Cloud at Work, we played together for a while. Yeah, so just to that point, in going through a lot of the trials and tribulations of being a leader and growing companies and those types of things, working as an entrepreneur, I came across this set of tools called EOS. I was able to implement them successfully and get what I wanted to get out of my business through those tools, and a series of enlightening moments leading up until a decision in about 2022 that this is really what I wanted to be doing with myself. I wanted to be coaching people. I wanted to be inspiring people. I wanted them to be able to see what they're capable of and get there.
That's awesome. So tell me, what kinds of companies do you work with today?
Typically, the truth of the matter is I work with companies all over the map. EOS, the set of tools I teach, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, it works. We technically say our target market are companies between 10 and 250 employees. So most of my clients do fall within like that employee headcount range, but there's exceptions. I have one or two that are a little bit on the higher end and one or two that are a little bit on the lower end. The truth of the matter is that the type of company that it works for is a company that's succeeding despite itself, that kind of is in that right market, has that product market fit and is onto some things, and they need to figure out a way to clear up some of that chaos, gain clarity on what's that next step. They've hit some ceilings, they've come across some roadblocks that are preventing them maybe from scaling and growing their company. So this provides the frameworks and the tools to take it to the next level. So really it's anybody who's like hit a wall.
Nice. Any particular verticals, areas of focus, or is it pretty much?
I actually work with a lot of contractors. I work with a lot of contracting companies. That's how I kind of got my start. Through that, I ended up working with some lighting design companies and manufacturing companies as well. I work with fashion companies that have retail stores, several dozens retail stores as well. So it's kind of all over the place. Medical billing companies, school photography companies, there's really no common vertical that I focus on. Interestingly enough, when I started in this business, I thought I would have this vertical focus in tech based on my background in tech and that I'd be able to, tap into some of that. But what's interesting is that it takes a long time to flip somebody's understanding of who you are and what you do, as opposed to like starting fresh. So we're still getting there on the tech side of things, but I do work with a couple of tech companies and that's growing too.
What a cool job, man. Working with all those different companies trying to grow. What's interesting to me is the industries, Adam. If you're trying to grow, and you need to organize your business, does the industry really matter? Does that even matter?
Not at all. People will ask me, actually, interestingly enough, like, oh, do you specialize in any industries? When they're evaluating whether or not they would want to work with me. There's 800 other EOS implementers in the world. So if I'm not the right fit, there's definitely somebody out there that is a fit. And a lot of times they'll want to know, oh, do you have background, working with similar types of companies? And sometimes I do, and sometimes it could be helpful. But the truth of the matter is that I need to know these tools. right? We call the consultant word the C word in my industry because we don't ever really want people to see us as consultants. My
The
job is
C
not to
word.
come in. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My job is not to come in and tell a company what they should be doing and what their strategies should be and how they're even going to get there and what the plan should be. My job is to understand how these tools that I have mastery over can help get those answers out of their head, right? So my vertical experience actually could be a detriment because then I might be leading the witness, so to speak, a little bit. Right? My job is really to teach them how to use this framework. They know what they need to do. I just got to help them get there.
That's so cool. Yeah, and I think it's super interesting too because look, the Cloudcast is really about organizations who are looking to be able to see around corners when it comes to technology. And I thought it would be super interesting to focus on one area of EOS. And by the way, Cloud at Work, Net at Work, we are users and adopters and evangelists of traction in EOS. But I thought it would be super interesting to look at particularly technology road mapping and the importance of vision in regards to EOS. So can you define within the EOS framework, what is vision?
Yeah, so vision, when we say vision, we're talking about who are we as a company, where are we going, and what is it going to take to get there? That's really what vision means, right? And I always like to say vision without traction is a hallucination, right? You could have all the vision in the world, but if you're actually not going to do the things you need to do to get there, it's just a dream, right? So just to rewind a little bit before I talk about how it addresses technology roadmap, really what EOS does is it helps people get really good at being leaders, right? It helps leadership teams grow and develop. And there's 5 things that leaders need to do, and I want to zero in on one, right? There's the ability to simplify things for their people, the ability to delegate, the ability to predict what's coming, the ability to systemize things, and the ability to structure their organization, structure the things that they do. So the one in the middle, the predict, is really, really, really important, right? When we think about what our vision is, we're actually predicting where we think this company should and can go, right? So when we think about like what we want to start doing is making a whole bunch of predictions of where this business is going to go and what's going to be going on in the world around us to craft that vision. So back to the point of, where does technology fit into all that, right? We have this tool called the VTO, which we can go deeper on or not, but it's 8 questions that you answer to solidify your vision, right? It's what are our core values? What type of culture are we trying to build? What's our core focus? Like what's our sweet spot as an organization? So whether a contractor, a tech company, a government agency, whatever that may be, we need to know what we do better than anybody else. And now we're going to start getting into the steps, right? So we talk about a thing called a core target, and it's really anywhere from 5 to 30 years out. That's your long-term thinking, right? I'm a big fan of the brand Nike. Somewhere on that shelf is Shoe Dog, the Phil Knight book, one of my favorites ever. And Nike set out when they built their business to crush Adidas, right? They knew it was never going to happen. They knew it was never, it's impossible almost to put that company out of business. But the way that Nike has built their organization for the last, 50 years, give or take, that it's been around or more, they've been constantly trying to set that bar and make it further. So now everything they come across in the short term, there's context to it, right? Should we start making golf clubs? Well, is that going to help us put Adidas out of business? Maybe, right? We want that 10-year, that long-term thinking because it's going to help us give, have that real like GPS coordinate context for where we're trying to go. And then you can roll it back into something called the 3-year picture, which is like zooming in now. If that's really where I'm going, if I'm crushing Adidas in 10 years, or if I'm, selling clothing on the moon when there's people living there on Mars, or whatever that may be, that's my crazy vision. In 3 years from now, what's that crystal clear picture that I have of where my company is? And there better be technology as part of that, right? Because now you have to start predicting where's this world going to be in 3 years? What systems are going to be there? We're all talking about AI. Years ago, even now, still obviously we're talking about the cloud. Like these are buzzwords, but these buzzwords are the things that you have to pay attention to, and you have to start making plans. So on your 3-year picture should definitely have some element of where we as an organization need to be from a technology perspective. And then once you have that, now I can say, okay, well, if that's really where we need to be in 3 years, where do I need to be this year? What's my 1-year plan? And what's that technology element there? Even if I don't have company goals around the technology, I certainly need a technology team that has their own goals to get us through the year. And then we start to attack it quarter by quarter. So that's really how we look at it in the general sense of where it fits in.
So as entrepreneurs, right, that makes complete sense. We are serving the market in a certain way, producing X good, providing X service, all good. So let's pretend we have that. Let's pretend we have that vision. We're crushing Adidas in 10 years. Is there such thing as like a sub vision, right? Is there, like, for instance, within a department, let's say Nike, the CTO of Nike, right? How, how, and what is the, how and what could happen if if the Phil Knight has this grandiose vision, but the CTO of Nike doesn't have a vision that supports that, right? Around keeping technology to see around
Sure.
corners. What do
Sure.
you think that would look like?
So when we think about like where traction's going, right? When we run on EOS, that's the way we say it. We run on EOS. That means that everybody up and down the food chain throughout an organization is operating on this system, right? So when we have this document, which I said called the VTO, that's the strategic vision for the business, and it's 2 pages. There's the vision page, the long-term stuff, the stuff that's happening out in the future, right? The core values, the core focus, that big 5, 10-year target, your 3-year picture, your marketing strategy. That's your future. Then the second page is what we call the traction page. That's the boots on the ground, the stuff that's happening now. It's this year's plan, this quarter's plan, the issues that we know that we have to deal with. Right? So when the business works as a, when you really, really got this EOS thing going, so to speak, your leadership team every quarter is going to meet. Really every year they're going to have an annual planning session, and they're going to plan out their year. They're going to rebuild that 3-year picture if it needs to be rebuilt, and they're going to pick those strategic priorities and then pick the strategic priorities for the business for the next quarter. After that happens, now each of those leadership team seats, if you have sales and marketing and operations and finance and HR and IT, whatever seats are represented at that leadership level, they then now bring that VTO to their teams within the next few days and say, okay, team, this is the company vision for the year, for the quarter. What do we now, if I'm the technology team, right? What's our role in all this? There's this one goal that we need to, switch over everything to the cloud, and we need to onboard a new CRM system by the end of 2025. So me as my technology and my IT team or whatever systems and support team is accountable for those exercises. How are we going to approach this? What's my goal? Where do we need to be in the year? Where do we need to be at the end of the quarter? Maybe things need to move a lot quicker for us. And you're going to do that every quarter. And then their teams are going to create their plans. And everyone then has their own plan for the year, their own plan for the quarter. Really, when you get down to it, it could almost be down to the individual if you really, really needed to get it that way.
So in working with leadership teams, have you seen what it looks like on the other end? Like maybe when they got to you, maybe they were making poor decisions, which led to certain things?
Well, it's interesting, EOS or any operating system for that matter. There's books like Rockefeller, OKRs. There's all sorts of other systems that you can run your business on. We just ask that you choose one, and I know about this EOS tool, right? So remind me again the question real quick. It's going to get me right back where I needed to go.
Yeah, the
I think
question
he was talking
is
about companies making bad decisions.
Companies making
what led them to talk to you, and
yeah.
or let's say you create this vision, things change. What happens if you don't adapt?
Right. So that's why it's the quarterly world, right? That's why we want to get you into this 90-day world where every 90 days you're working and you're focused on a priority and it's building towards something. And if we realize that we picked the wrong goals for this 90 days, I'm not now stuck in that for the rest of the year. I can reboot. Right. So I do have that ability to apply it to the reality of my business and do it that way. And then as far as like making poor decisions go, right? A lot of the times we make poor decisions because we don't have the context. Right? When we think about where businesses are, there's a lot of businesses that are in firefighting mode constantly. Emergency here, huge opportunity here. So when we have the framework of context of goals for a quarter, for a year, for 3 years, 10 years, we now understand why we need to make better short-term decisions too. So a lot of the times we'll ignore that technology project or push it off or band-aid to get us through a quarter or a year when really by doing so we're sacrificing the future vision. So we always have to have that future vision in mind that to make the right decision, both short and long term. So I think that that's where it really helps, strengthen some of those decisions. I think we kind of make bad decisions when we lack context.
Hey, Adam, you kind of mentioned it when you started and did the introduction, but when do most companies realize, hey, I need to bring in someone like yourself? Like what changes, what triggers that? Like what is usually happening in their business that I'm sure it's not just making bad decisions. There's got to be something, that light bulb moment, right?
Yeah, it is, a little bit across the spectrum of various reasons, but I think it does boil down into 5 main categories. right? And really, usually it's the business owner or an executive, somebody on that leadership team that has the idea that says, okay, this can't keep going, right? They've hit this wall, they've hit this ceiling, and they know that they can't sustain themselves at this level forever, right? Or it's just not fun, right? So we have this concept called the EOS life, which is really 5 things. And when you asked that question, it really made me think about that. It's basically any business that wants one of 5 things or more of one of 5 things, right? So this EOS life we talk about is doing what you love, right? There's businesses that just feel like they're not doing the right things, or executives that are like, I'm putting out fires all the time. I'm not focused on strategy and big picture, right? So you want to be doing the things in the business that you're wired to do and that you're passionate about. The second thing you're going to want to be doing more of is surrounding yourselves with the people that you love, right? You want to do what you love with the people you love. You want to have a great culture, right? You don't want to hire a bunch of people who you do not want to surround yourselves with at the end of the day. Like, you want that culture where people think and act and react the same way. Not to be homogenous, but to have culture. Like, we're on the same page. We share our core values, right? So they want that. The third thing, and you also want people who are really good at their jobs, by the way, right? Like, that's something. Like, I have great people here, but they're just not necessarily productive. So that's also part of people I love. The third thing is that we want to be making a huge impact. Sometimes we feel like the work we're doing is just like there, right? And we're not adding the impact that we as entrepreneurs want to add to the world. So that could be a reason why somebody would want to, change things up and get that to the next level. The fourth reason, I think we all like this one, is to be compensated appropriately. At the end of the day, there's a business that's just not profitable enough or not generating enough revenue, right? Needs to figure out a way to get their costs under control. This framework now gives you that, again, the context, the short-term, the long-term thinking to address those things. And then the last one is my favorite one, really, and that's time to pursue other passions. Sometimes a business just needs us because everyone is just working too hard. They're just being pulled in too many different directions. They love what they do. They love the people they surround themselves with. They're making a ton of money. They're making a huge impact, but they're not able to go to their kids' Little League games. They're not able to be there to go to the doctor's appointments, with their parents that they need to go and be supported. All sorts of reasons why we work. Like I said, we work to live. We don't live to work. To me, that's my most fun. When I know that, like, everything else in that business is like humming along, like they've got great people, they've got processes, they're doing all this thing. They just want to like live a better life. Like, that's my most favorite one to hit on personally.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So how long have you been doing this, Adam?
So in theory, I've been doing it, like, professionally, I've been doing it for about 2.5 years now, which is crazy to think because it seems like just yesterday I was part of the network organization. But in theory, I was implementing it into my business as the implementer because we didn't bring in an implementer. So I did have to become a student of the game relatively early, and I was an early adopter myself and learned quite a bit about it. And that's what kind of put me on this. So sometimes I say 5 years, sometimes I say 2.5 years. It depends who my audience is.
So technology has changed in the past 5 years. Let's just say the past 2.5, where maybe you've been doing it for other organizations, which I think is absolutely crazy how fast your business has grown. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm hitting about
a lot of curious companies out there who want to get better, which is great for everybody.
What's the number one thing that makes someone an entrepreneur?
What's the number one thing that makes someone an entrepreneur? Curiosity and drive.
A good one. That's 2 things, but I like it.
Tyler's not great at math.
When do I follow the
rules? Not so great at math.
I always like to say what I think makes an entrepreneur is that it's somebody who is way more disturbed by the status quo than they are of change. Right? Like, you want, like if you're scared to change, if you're scared of those big jumps,
dude, you can't.
That's everything. But there's entrepreneurs that there's people that have very successful businesses that are good to ride it. Like, you're successful. Nike, I don't think, is that entrepreneurial organization that it maybe used to be, right? They just got to hit some numbers for some shareholders and just keep seeing that, stock ticker go up. Like, that's really all it's about for them right now.
But like in the past 2.5 years, AI, cybersecurity, like in the companies you're talking with, is this coming up? Like,
I'm using it in the session room sometimes.
Wow.
To be honest, we've incorporated into what we do. Yeah, there's a lot of activities. There's a lot of help that AI adds. I have what I try to nurture what we call an abundance mindset to realize that all these tools out there are to help us do our jobs better and not to threaten. So I'm not threatened by it, but there are people that are threatened by it. But I think we have to embrace it in the right way. So whether it be trying to get a whole bunch of ideas of different things that I can measure on a scorecard, right? Like, if there's a tool that can give me 50 potential metrics that would add real value to my business if I track 3 or 4 or 5 of those things, Why wouldn't I use that tool? Why would I want to sit for 5 hours banging my head against the wall trying to figure out what those things are?
You're sitting in the strategy rooms, right?
Yeah.
As companies are coming up with plans, right? What are they talking about? What are they
Hey, check.
what are they concerned with, right? Like what are they trying to focus on when it comes to
These businesses that
technology?
I'm working with are not seeing this as a threat either. They're all seeing it as opportunistic, right? So, you know, without getting too deep into the types of clients and what they're doing, but I could think of a company that um, they do photography, right? And they ask themselves the question all the time, like, at what point can we stop sending humans maybe to do this, right? Like where you just literally like send a kit via UPS to a school, for example, and like you set the thing up, it talks to the people. Like there's AI that can literally tell the kids where to sit and stand and do all these things, right? That's where people get threatened. The photographer is obviously a little bit threatened by that, but the smart photographer is going to embrace that, right? And they're going to figure out, how do I make this help me do my job better? Because you're right. Maybe I can feed this engine, and maybe I know certain things the machine can't, and I can get better results out of the prompts that it's giving it. Who knows, right? But like, it could be that we're 10 years from now, 10, like we could be a very, very far away from that, or we could be very close, right? There's robots coming, right? Like it's gonna happen.
Terminator.
Yeah,
So
they do look eerily similar to some of those movies.
what about if you have an entrepreneur, right? They're curious, they want to grow, they want to scale, they understand they've plateaued, or maybe they've hit a roadblock and they want to figure out how to break through that. How do you determine what people are going to support that, right? Like how do you analyze your executive team to make sure you have the right people around you to go to the next step? Because sometimes 1+1 = 4,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So there's actually a tool that we teach called the People Analyzer, no pun intended, but that's actually what we use to kind of measure that. But really, you got to hit it on two sides, right? The first things that you have to ask yourself is, culturally, these executives that I'm surrounding myself with, like, do they fit who we are as a company today, and do they fit who we need to be going into the future? Right? I have worked with a company, and I've mentioned this before to other people. So, the core value of the business is 100 miles an hour, that they're just constantly moving, like really fast, making decisions. And even if there's some risk involved, just keep going. Like we're good. That's how we've grown this thing. And, an organization like that wants to surround themselves with people that like operate that way, right? You want a leadership team that thinks and operates that way. But at a certain point in time, when your organization has grown, right? And if your business is a bust, you're driving 100 miles an hour, with only a couple people on, is not that much risk. But now you have a whole bunch more people, a lot, like bigger, a lot more at stake, right? So you always have to ask yourself, culturally, do we still want to be that business? Is that the business that I want to be, in 10 years from now? And is acting that way today going to help me get there? Because if it isn't, then I might need to weed that out of my organization. Maybe some of those people, unfortunately, that were the linchpins that have gotten us here because of that drive, right? They might be actually what could be potentially holding us back, which is sometimes a difficult conversation to have, but it comes up sometimes, right? And it doesn't mean they're a bad person, and it doesn't mean that all the work that they've done till this point is meaningless. It just means that we need to figure out how we're going to get where we need to go, and for this person to go where they need to go going forward. So there's that side, the cultural element of just constantly like really focusing on what your core values are, and pressure testing them to make sure that they're the right ones. And then there's the other side of it, outside of the culture, the core values that fit. We call it GWC. Do the people that are in these seats get their jobs? Are they naturally wired to do this work? Do they want to do this job? Maybe they wanted to do it a long time ago because they thought they were gonna, elevate and become the CEO one day, and now they're not the CEO now. So they actually still want to be here doing this, right? Or maybe they have other passions that, like, it's not even that they got missed out. Maybe they're just like, I want to be a professional baseball player, and I'm going to retire from basketball and, start playing baseball for a little bit, because like that's a want to, right? Like you could lose it. And then do they have the capacity? That's the most interesting question we have to ask, because today probably, yeah, they have the capacity to do this. But as AI changes, as technology changes, as leadership and management styles change, as an organization grows, so we always have to ask, will they continue to have that capacity to operate in that role? And those are the questions we always have to ask. It's gotten us here, will it get us there? And it applies to the people that we surround ourselves with. And, again, they're not bad people. They just might not be a right fit.
Adam, I know in the book Get a Grip, the executive team like I think somebody self-selects out of the team because they go through that exercise to score and rate. Like, how often do you actually see that with executives? I'm curious. Like, when you start working with real companies that are relatively successful, or they wouldn't be hiring you to be in the first
Yeah,
place, right? Like, how often do
yeah.
you see that?
So I thought it would happen a lot more often when I came into it, just based on like, what I had read and we have a very tight-knit community of implementers that really support each other and we share our war stories. We don't compete with each other. Like we really, really like so I've heard a lot of, like these stories, you hear them as part of being part of the community. We have a Monday morning call and people are just experience sharing these things that happen or they've come across a scenario. How do I deal with this? And we give each other those experience shares. So I've heard about a lot of them. Like those are the good juicy topics that we get to talk about. So here I was when I got into this world thinking like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to like,
Shake
be the
things up. It's going
referee,
to happen
everything.
all the time. Yeah.
The truth of the matter is that it could happen. It has happened in the session room. Usually a lot of the stuff that manifests in the session room when those conversations need to take place. The session room is when it happens. And again, depending on like usually everybody knows what's happening at the table also, like they get it, like it's something that's been going on for a while and it usually works itself out, right? Like either the person realizes they're not a fit anymore themselves and self-selects out or you have the framework for the conversation. But what I will say is we always have to, and my therapist says I'm supposed to say and, not but, and we have to do as much as we can to get out ahead of those things, right? To make sure that we share those expectations and help people reach those expectations because we want to maintain those tight relationships. We don't want people to lose their want to.
Yeah. So you said that oftentimes you get involved with people because they're working too hard, they're not having enough fun. What do you say to the people that would somewhat think, hey, bringing in an EOS person like yourself actually may be harder work to get organized? Like how do you handle that
Yeah,
objection?
it's imposing, right? We start off, the first step in our process is something called the 90-minute meeting. And I'll meet with a client and their leadership teams for 90 minutes. It's a free session. We have at core value help first. So I won't take a penny from anybody until I've directly added value to their organizations. And that's part of what we do. We're going to go in there. We're going to show them these are the tools. This is the process. This is exactly how we're going to get you from point A to point B with this implementation over the next year and a half, 2 years, however long we need to go for. Right? So we're going to set those expectations right up front. And the right companies, when they start to think about it and they see I put my number up on the wall and what maybe the cost of hiring me is, that's actually nothing when you think about it compared to what the impact and value is if we start to achieve this vision. So, I had a client once say, you're 100% return on investment. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then I'm like, wait a minute, no. I want to be a lot higher than that, right? Because really the work we do is more like 1,000% return on investment. Like if I can teach you how to add an extra zero to your bottom line, and I can give you a framework that makes that achievable vision a reality, you don't worry about what you pay me. What you should be thinking about is the investment you have to make in yourselves. And the companies that take this seriously, they struggle. It's not right away such an easy, oh, of course I want to do this. It sounds great. Yeah, I'm going to sit, we're going to learn these tools, we're going to run this system, and we're going to just be this amazing business. But you've got to do the things, right? Like I only work with my clients once every 90 days, a little bit more in the startup phase. But once we're in that 90-day world where I'll meet with them and you don't see me again for 3 months, that's on you now. You've got to meet every week. You've got to get your rocks done. You've got to hit your numbers. And if you start to do those things and it feels good and the business is growing as a result, then of course you're going to keep bringing me back, right? But that's really where the investment is in the organizations need to make it in themselves to use this framework to achieve their vision.
Makes
I think it's
sense.
fantastic. Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And look, we're almost out of time. So we have about 5 minutes left. So that means, Adam, give me the 2-minute summary. If you could leave our audience with one nugget, what would it be?
The one nugget is that I have the coolest job in the world. That is a cool one. I like that. I really do. I love what I do. And that's really one nugget I would give everybody. One thing that we didn't dive into too much was, just how I got here and doing what I did. It was an inspiring journey. And I really, really, in case you can tell from talking about it, I'm very passionate about what I do. And I think that that's just number one for everybody is like, do the things you're passionate about, right? And there are people who the life that I live, they can never see themselves doing that. I don't want to be in front of people all day, inspiring them and going, that's not for me. Good. Like, because we need you guys to like do the other things in the world, right? So that's number one is just to do what you love. Number two is goals create focus. And when I say that, I mean when we have goals as an organization for a culture, what we want to be, or we have goals for, revenue and profitability and headcount and growth across the board, right? having those predictions made in advance help you give you better context and will help you make smarter decisions with your technology and obviously in the short term.
Fantastic. Seth, anything you want to add?
I just want to point out to the audience one interesting fact here about Mr. Adam is he is actually my birthday twin, Tyler. Did you know that?
True. This is
much
true.
much older birthday twin, but my birthday twin
Debatable,
nonetheless.
debatable, but yeah. One of us is older than the other one and might be the one with less gray hair in his beard.
Yo, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know if Jessica can come next time. She doesn't shut up. She doesn't.
Yeah, right?
I know. I was soaking it all in.
That's good.
It was a lot of learning. So.
Yeah, we needed somebody on who doesn't talk to me often, I guess, because I thought you guys I know, right? Like to just keep us balanced and
of our audience, yeah.
right, because this could have gone completely off the rails in a different direction, like when Tyler asked one of his other questions.
That's right.
So we got to wrap this up out. I have one question for you. Like, what is the most surprising thing that you see regularly when you go into companies? Like, what surprises you the most?
What surprises me the most?
What would you think these companies are already doing that some of them are just not doing? Like, is it, they don't have a VTO, they don't have a technology. Like, what is it? What are you surprised the most about when you start working with a new company?
Well, actually, I'll say what actually surprises me the most is how many companies don't get to that point. But when you actually think about what we do as an organization, if I meet with a company and they say, we love this is going to help us, we totally see the value, but we think that this other system is going to help, or we're not there. We want to try this other thing first. And then once we get a few more people, we feel like this could really hurt. Like those people are great. Like that's exactly fine. Again, there's plenty of other operating systems. I'm good at this one. This is the one that I love. This is the one that I teach. And if it can help you, great. If not, not. It's the people that just say no and then don't do anything.
That resist and don't do anything.
Yeah, or the people that would eventually bring me in, but not necessarily do the work. And those generally end up being short engagements because I don't sign contracts. There's no contract. You go session to session. And in fact, if I do a session with you and you don't get value out of it and you don't feel this is going to get you where you need to go, you actually don't pay me. That's my guarantee. It's a risk that I take every time I do a session, but it's something that I'm proud to do because it holds me accountable and it really, really keeps the focus on the value. And thankfully, I do plenty of these sessions and it's never happened to me before. So, I think we're doing good. Not once, never happened. But at the same time, what people will do is they'll stop, right? You might do a session and say, hey, this isn't for us. No harm, no foul. Like, go about your business, do those things. But when you don't pick it back up and it's just going to continue to stay chaotic, like that's the stuff that like frustrates just because I'm driven. We talked about that before, like drive, entrepreneurship. Like to me, status quo is just never okay. Like with every level of my life, whether it be teaching EOS or playing competitive sports, whatever I'm doing, I want to be really, really good at it. So I always want people around me that share that drive.
Don't be stagnant. Don't be stagnant.
Yeah, yep. Exactly. 100%. And I think Adam used that same drive to create the #1 greatest piece of swag I've ever seen. It was amazing. Listen, everyone, thanks so much for joining. Adam, great to see you as always. Seth,
always, guys.
Great to be with you. Jessica, pipe it down, okay?
I'll try. I'll try.
All right.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks for joining, Jessica.
Thank you, guys.
And listen,
Appreciate
everybody,
Adam.
Please tune in, like and subscribe, and finally, go Birds.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.